What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So in this video, wow, we have to talk about Elon. All right, we need to have some serious discussion about Elon. So that's what we're gonna do. And so if you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Check out my other channels: JMD Drummer, JMDPLAY, Discord there one time. QR if you want to do a one-time donation. JMD Nation Patreon, $3 a month there. Anything that you do to support me and my channels and whatnot is very much appreciated. So thank you very, very much. All right, so we have to have a serious conversation here, because we have this man called Elon Musk. We had the video come out, that we made a big deal about last week, where he was, he did his little salute, let's say, which, went big and rightfully so. It was concerning. It was a problem. It was something that, should certainly throw up red flags. But since then, he has really gone haywire in his newly appointed position with DOGE and stuff, completely hacking away and going around acting as if he is the boss and the head of the White House, like he is the president. It's like he's given full reign to do whatever he wants with anyone he wants in the administration, from like the federal admin side of things, not in the White House, but in gutting any agency, targeting any agency, just doing what he wants to in the name of removing waste from our government. This is not a position. This is not someone who was democratically appointed. This is not somebody who was sworn in with any real official title. He didn't have to go through the Congress and be questioned and approved or anything like that. He is a private citizen who is being allowed access to some of the most critical, crucial, private elements and parts of our government. Oh, and he just happens to be the richest man in the world. This is beyond ridiculous, is beyond corrupt. He has went around firing people, firing heads of agencies. He has attempted to force his way into agencies that he has no security clearances for, but in the name of Daddy Trump, he thinks he has the authority. And trying to dismantle agencies just unilaterally without any congressional approval. Agencies that were placed and developed under congressional approval and are supposed to be, if considered unnecessary or considered unneeded anymore is supposed to go through those same channels of congressional approval to be removed, to be and also in a way so that they can, be sort of taken down and eliminated in a um, reasonable way, in a manner that will not disrupt actions that particular agency may, you know, um, may be over, that still needs to be handled, but it might be placed under another department or something. If it's because if this was you taking a fine, a fine precision knife and like going through each agency trying to find any corruption in it, or any kind of, activities that are not in the best interest of the American people, which I know that's kind of a broad, like, weird statement, but let's just say that's what we're saying here. Um, and you specifically targeted those issues, not the department, but those particular issues, and tried to eliminate those issues from said department, then I don't think this is a problem. Okay, I don't think that would be a problem. The same argument I've made even about, say, I don't know, Gaza. If Israel had went in precise with special, forces, and combed through and found actual, like, people that were Hamas or whatever, and removed them, eliminated them, whatever, without actually, like, damaging um, structures, and damaging, wounding, killing innocent people, then I would not have seen a problem with that type of action being made after October 7th. I would have actually said, you know what, disrespectable. But when you drop a grenade, drop a bomb on every agency, in everything in the government, no matter the cost, no matter what it hits, no matter what it damages, no matter what consequences come from that, well, you turn our government into something like Gaza, indiscriminate, and you destroy everything. Which at this point, I actually think is the point. I mean, I think Elon is literally trying to destroy everything. I think he wants to break it down, eliminate everything in his way, so that he can get a hold of departments and a hold of areas that he can manipulate for his benefit and the benefit of his people. And damn the consequences to the rest of the country and to the regular citizens of the country who may be in need, or may, of services or funding, or, you know, some type of safety net, social engagement or protections or whatever. Damn all that. As long as they get what's theirs, or what they think is theirs. As long as they get the benefit of it. And that's what he's doing. He has literally been given the keys, damn near it, to the U.S. Treasury. He has given access to personal information of millions of people across the United States. And he's doing this with the act of roughly about 5, 6, I think it's been established, about 6 people. Kids, mind you, between the ages of 19 and 24. As someone said, they're not even old enough to rent a car. And they are getting access into government agencies and dismantling these agencies and gathering intel and information from these agencies, particularly the Treasury itself. With the backing of Elon and Trump, apparently. This is unconstitutional. It is illegal. It's corruption. And everybody should be blowing the roof off in anger, frustration, and concern about what's going on in our government right now. A government that has been placed apparently in the hands of Elon Musk to do with whatever he wants. While Trump plays the guinea pig, plays the puppet, talking, his bullshit in conferences and going golfing. I mean, he's been golfing like 3 or 4 times already since he's taken office. And playing like a school kid with some markers, scribbling on some papers that he clearly didn't read and doesn't actually know the ins and outs of what he's signing. And doesn't care either. Elon is little by little destroying our agencies. He's doing what he did to Twitter. He's doing to our government and to the administration, the admin agencies that handle all the facets, ins and outs of our government. All in the name of trying to, trim down the wastes, to eliminate, to minimize government. But he's taken a hatchet to all these departments that, in more ways than not, do substantially good things for not only the people of the United States, but also people abroad. We've seen where he has attacked the U.S. aid agency. Now, granted, there have been arguments of certain little things that have been funneled through this agency that, are little weird, strange, maybe potentially corrupt. But this agency does amazing humanitarian aid and support all across the world. Medical and health things in countries and with people to help prevent, diseases and things, or to mitigate diseases and things in areas that have no access to things that could do that. And if you're arguing, well, why are we supporting this? Why do I care about this disease in this other country that they can't handle or whatever? Why are we assisting? Why are my taxpayers' dollars going to that? Think about it. If you have a major outbreak of a major disease in another country, the potential of that disease spreading, they don't have the resources, they don't have the things that could take care of it and mitigate it and keep it, suppressed, or keep it, even maybe even eradicate it if it for a little while or something. And this goes widespread, and and can spread to other areas, and then little by little can spread. I mean, if you just let it go wild, if we are assisting, if we are taking some resources and assisting this particular areas here, particular areas there, whatever, with certain diseases and certain things, outbreaks of stuff, to try to help mitigate it and try to keep it under control, we then are protecting not only that area and that group of people, but we're protecting the potential for any area in the world, including the United States. That's the reason why we do these things. It is in the name of protecting you. It's the type of thing that we would have liked to have been able to protect, even when it comes to COVID. If we could have somehow prevented that from spreading like it did. The problem is that it got out before it was able to be contained. But if you have things in practice of things that happen in certain areas, and you can do that and prevent those things from spreading or whatnot, then you do that in protection of your own people. And this is the type of agency that was doing these type of humanitarian aid work. Okay. And not to mention, this agency only represents like 1%, I think. 2%, I think, at best, of our total GDP, or total, federal debt or whatever, or payouts. It's very small, very small. But see, that's the reason why they targeted it. They targeted that facility, that agency, purposefully, so that they could then, if they could get away with it, then they could turn around and go to the next facility that might be a little bit bigger, and then the next facility that might be a little bit bigger, and the next agency that might be a little bit bigger, until they can go to the big things that they really want to get to. That's how someone who's trying to take over, who's trying to do a soft coup, who's trying, think about it in the way of, I thought about this earlier, think about it in the way of how somebody steals your identity. It used to be an action where, like at first it was, it was just immediately try to take what we can get, it's like, oh my gosh. So they would be trying to take big numbers that would immediately, and they might get away with first time with it, but it started to get to where, they were being found immediately and prevented from getting those things, from stuff like Visa fraud or whatever, fraud companies, whatever, keeping an eye on these kinds of things. So then what did they get? Then they got a little bit smaller. They started to do little small transactions just to make sure that it worked. And then they might jump up a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, whatever. Or, or they would just maybe take a good hunk or whatever and get away with it a couple more times before they got caught. But now they're starting to get smarter to where they just do little bit by little bit by little bit, these little small transactions, but they do several of them spaced out so that you don't recognize them. And it makes it even harder for these identity things to catch them, right? So they are able to get away with, more before they're getting caught. That's the idea. Same thing is being applied here. They're going after the small things, doing a little bitty thing here, see if they can get away with it. Then they go to the next thing, see if they can get away with that. And then it gives them the ability to go to the next thing, so they can get away with that, until they can get to the things that they really want to destroy. They really want to take out. And as we have heard here in the past few days, and which we already had heard in the past, but people were like, I don't know if they're really going to do that. But they're looking, of course, at the Department of Education. And they're doing this in the argument of, DEI and things like that, but I'm not understanding all the things that the Department of Education actually handles and the goods that it actually provides. And it's already been argued that this thing, we've talked about in another video, that you can't just dismantle that. There are critical things that cannot go without being addressed, without being either just, absorbed into another department if you're just wanting to get rid of an agency for the sake of getting rid of an agency. But there are critical things that it does. And that goes for all these agencies. There are critical things that they do. But instead of going through with a fine-tooth comb, a precision knife, and trying to carve out the things that they legitimately probably could be carved out and are, not really beneficial or are potentially even corrupt, that are being hidden somehow. They're just dropping grenades on all these things and blowing them the fuck up. But here's the latest thing that is being dropped today. Elon Musk DOGE moves on to wasteful spending motherlode. This is where the big money fraud is happening. What is that? What would be considered the wasteful spending motherlode? Well, going where the money is, aides to Elon Musk are now focused on the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Service. As they seek to root out waste and fraud in the federal government. Musk is the leader of the Department of Government Efficiency and whatever. We know what the hell he is. As an outside agency, DOGE does not make policy decisions, but offers ammunition to Trump's appointees, who then uses data to close loopholes, inefficiency, increase efficiency, and reduce waste. A report from the Wall Street Journal cited sources it did not name said DOGE analysts have burrowed their way into key systems that involve Medicare and Medicaid payments and contracting. Musk acknowledged the report in a post on social media platform X, where this is somebody said that DOGE aids search Medicare agencies' payment systems for fraud. Elon Musk's allies have been on site at Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services offices this week and saying the motherlode is now being tapped for the first but not the last time. This is where the real big savings are. And Elon retweeted or whatever the hell, re-X'd. Yeah, this is where the big money fraud is happening. The journal said that Musk analysts are looking at the system's technology as well as the spending that flows through them, with a focus on pinpointing what they consider fraud or waste. The agency doles out about $1.5 trillion in benefits through Medicare, which covers older and disabled Americans, and Medicaid, which serves low-income Americans. An agency official said two senior agency veterans who are leading the coordination with DOGE, and that agency officials are taking a thorough approach to see where there may be opportunities for more effective and efficient spending in line with meeting the goals of President Trump. DOGE has been working on the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, where they've gotten across access to key payment and contracting systems. Who thinks the waste and fraud found will be beyond staggering? DOGE is given, this is one thing they've said, they've only been given read-only access to all these places and agencies and whatnot. The journalist said, which means it cannot alter information, only view it. I highly doubt that, though. A September report from General Accounting Office put Medicare and Medicaid at the top of its list of agencies where fraud or improper payments were taking place. The report said that between $233 billion and $521 billion this year is wasted due to fraud or improper payments. So their idea here is to attack and look into Medicare and Medicaid, I'm assuming, for fraud. That's what the claim is. You know what's an interesting interesting department? So they're just alluding to fraud here. They're thinking there's fraud. Or they, or maybe even have identified like other groups have identified potential fraud, and so they're looking into it. Whatnot. You know what? And it 50 billion, at most 100 billion is what they're talking about here. You know what agency has been recently, well, actually months ago, identified as having a whole lot of waste, fraud, auditing that they could not pass, and they have not passed for years? Year over year over year over year over year, not being able to account for over 60% of funds, of money that is allocated to their department. They every time, every audit, they fail every year, not knowing where the money is going. Trillions, not 100 billion, trillions of dollars. Have no idea where it's going. You know what department that is? It's the Pentagon. If you really wanted to look at something that could really save money for America, how about our defense? If you're really concerned about protecting Americans and what they have invested interest in with the money that they pay in for taxes, where that's being spent, how it's being spent, for what it's being spent. I think the department that is allocated the most money to, maybe that department is the one that needs to be checked. But we know why Elon Musk is not concerned about checking the Pentagon. Because if you check the Pentagon, then potential stuff, in all his military contracts and stuff that he has, could potentially show some shit. He don't want to mess with that. Nobody wants to mess with the Pentagon. Nobody wants to mess with our defense. Let's just keep feeding all that money out there. Money that we have no clue, have no, chains of determining where it's being used. Whether it's, Ukraine, Israel, or any amount of other places or weapons that are being pushed here and there. Maybe even the weapons that are going over the southern border into Mexico that we, say isn't happening, but it is. Maybe we should be looking into that. But instead, they're attacking all of the agencies and departments that do things substantially for American people, for the lesser, for people that are dependent on different programs or funding or support, not only in the U.S., but even abroad, in protection for the U.S. That's what they're attacking. They're dismantling our government. They're dismantling everything that supports us and protecting seem to be protecting those things that help support them. I've said it before in a previous video. This is a coup happening before our eyes by the ultra wealthy, by the richest people in the world, the richest people in our country. The Elon Musks, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg's. These people. You know that since Trump took office, just what, 2 weeks? Right? Maybe 3? What is it? Is it 3? We were 2.5 weeks in. And just those three have acquired 232 roughly $1 billion added to their wealth just in 2.5 weeks. 232 billion, that's with a B, billion more to their wealth. Elon Musk being the biggest of that, almost half of that, over half of that, 100 and something of that to Elon Musk, and like 50 or 40 something to the other two respectively. In just 2.5 weeks since Trump took office. If you're not understanding what's happening right now, if you're not cluing in, if you're not seeing this new gilded age that we've talked about, to the oligarchy that is fully in practice and in form right now. Tech billionaire overtake. And you are not concerned. You're not worried about it. You are not actively speaking against or protesting or whatever. I don't know what to say to you anymore. I don't know what to say to you anymore. Like I said, if they were fine-tooth precision going through these things, this would be a whole different story. Even though it still may not be completely legal because this is being done by a private citizen who has no actual democratic appointment, or was not voted into a position. He's just appointed, not even with an official title or official position. And ironically, we already had a department, already had an agency that was created to do exactly what DOGE is doing. And I mean, they were working little by little, or removing waste here, removing waste there. I mean, there's a continuous, check on those types of things. Now, granted, maybe, you could argue that they weren't doing good enough. True. We might can have that discussion. But this is really just redundancy, which is funny because it's completely ironic to what they're supposed to be doing. But on top of that, the richest man in the world is not even from the U.S. A South African private citizen, richest man in the world, has been given full access to all these agencies to do what he wants, and now has the keys to the Treasury, the department that implements and places out these payments from these different agencies and stuff like that. And he has the keys to them and is making arguments to delete or not refuse for those payments to go out. Even things that have been allocated and already paid for to go out. That in itself is unconstitutional. The process is that Congress has the purse. They establish what needs to be paid through, that's the preparations bills and things like that for funding of different parts of the government, or funding for this, funding for that, whatever. They make the ruling on it. It is put across the desk of the president. From my understanding, he has so many days to sign it. He can veto it if he wants, but it just goes back to the Congress with whatever suggestions he has of, making it better or whatever the case. They then decide whether or not to, make those changes or not, or whatever. As long as it's agreed upon again, then the president must sign it. It goes into a law. It goes into effect. Period. And if those initial 10 days, whatever it is, if he doesn't sign it, it still goes into effect. Because Congress has the purse. They have control over what spending is done in the government, not the executive branch, not the president. He doesn't have unilateral control. That was established after Nixon, right? Where he tried to do this unilateral stuff. And they implemented it in then to prevent that from happening again. And it's held this long. But now Trump is trying to completely dismantle that. The thousands of things that we talked about that was in Project 2025 about dismantling the administrative state and taking away, the powers of Congress, of the other judicial, in the judicial branch, to coalesce power to the executive branch so that he can do whatever he wants. It's the ultimate authoritarian power grab. That's what's happening. And Elon is there as the muscle, I guess. This has got to stop. I think there's already lawsuits that have been placed or starting to get worked on in regards to the Treasury with Elon and the legalities of that. So we're going to see what happens from there on that front. Trying to prevent him from getting in there. See, the previous head of the Treasury attempted to prevent him from getting in, and then they threatened, put him on administrative leave and threatened marshals on not being allowed in, his Musk's little, minions, little 19, 20-year-old minions. And then he wound up retiring because he didn't want to have nothing to do with it. And then the guy that was being sworn in, being approved by Congress to take over that position for Trump's appointee, he then turns around and gives full access, hands off, full access to Musk, to the Treasury. This is a problem. The richest man in the world should not even have access to the government, much less be a part of the government and have access to vital private data and information of the American people. That it was stated his minions had their own personal, like, had personal servers in there downloading information from the Treasury. If this is criminal, I don't know what is. If this isn't criminal, I don't know what is. Um, Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know, whether you think this is criminal or not, whether you think it's unconstitutional or not, or, whether you're for it or not. Let me know. Anyways, till next time, peace. Clear Talk. I'm out.